what is the difference between the guy that IPs 70, 80K a month and the guy that IPs 20K a month at number 20 on our producer leaderboard? It's the consistency and the activity. That's all it is, And like if that's my favorite part about the business. Like I can pull up the leaderboard and I can tell you, hey, this guy spends that much on leads, this guy spends this much. And what is the number one indicator outside of work ethic that you see somebody's numbers higher than the other? Is like, hey, that guy might spend 300, $400 more a week on leads than that guy does. And
Mhm.
what does that mean? He gets more leads, he gets more people to talk to, he presents to more, and he closes more.
If you want to thrive, if you want to be successful,
Welcome to VIPAs, the Game Plan Call.
For those who don't know who this is, very important individual. Ronnie, I think we met when
Miami.
we met in Ignite Sales Conference in 2024. And I think that was when we had first got into the business too. And I had first got
In
into
Vegas. In Vegas.
yeah,
That's where we met.
in Vegas, yes.
Yeah.
What better place to meet than Sin City, man? God forbid. But regardless, though, we were locked in though, so we want to get into anything like crazy. But we had at that point we came from captive, so like we were like exploring the brokerage space, and you were like one of the sort of like inspirations,
Mm-hmm.
in being able to transition over here, man. I think we had talked about a few things, and then it's crazy because at that time you also had a guy, an agent, Adam Cade,
Yeah.
right? He had came in the business at the same time too, and then he was the one who he walked on stage at convention within a 6 month time period in January,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is insane, man. So obviously you got a method to the madness. You got something, I mean, I'm sure and we see you're in the office right now, right? You guys are locked in, so I'm sure work definitely plays a big factor in that. But just to give everyone a little bit of background about you, man. Ronnie Salem, 2024 FFL MVP. He was on stage with HD this last year. His agency went from doing 100,000 a month in issue paid premium last year around the same time to doing 1 million a month
Can you
this
hear me? Yeah,
round.
I'm with you.
Yep. And then obviously, you're in the industry's fastest 7 figure in a month from joining the business, right? And then
Yes.
your rookie year, you did Hall of Fame.
Yeah, rookie year, Hall of Fame, and we scaled from damn near zero from, finished last year 1.4 million a month.
Crazy, crazy, man. It had to have been some sort of like major change, man, like throughout that time. Because I know I met you like when you guys were doing like you guys were doing like decent numbers at that time, but not like how it
Yeah.
is now. Right. And that happened in such a short period of time. Like, what would you say like sort of contributed to that as a whole?
So I think the biggest thing, man, is I always look at first and foremost, appreciate you guys having me on your all's team call today. You guys have excellent leaders that, you guys should be proud to be led by in our industry. You guys have some of the best that I'm familiar with. So the biggest thing, man, is I always break down to the business to three things. It's consistency, mindset, and ego, right? So the biggest thing is like I didn't know anything about the insurance industry when I got into it and decided to go full time, last year after my first convention. But I did get around the right people. And, that's the best part about the business is our company is called Family First Life. It's like one big family. Some of the people that I've talked to and been able to get advice from or been mentored by, like legit helped me skip that learning curve for 3 years. And that's all it is in business, man. You can get further ahead. You can get further ahead by making fewer mistakes. And the way that you do that is by getting around the right people, continuing to be coachable, not having an ego. Like if you go to my team's Instagram, you wouldn't even know that I'm the agency owner. And that's how we operate here. But unfortunately, most people, when they get to a certain level, they can't get over themselves. So the biggest thing that I always say in the business, it's ego.
Yeah.
You can either have a big ego in a small business or a small ego in a big business. That's what it really comes down to. Just being coachable and getting around the right people and continuing to learn.
No doubt, man. No doubt. I mean, I couldn't agree more. We talk about that so much here, right? Because you see so many times, right? Like it's easy to be coachable when you have like no money, right? When you're coming in, when everyone needs help. Everyone's like, bringing out their hands and their pots and pans, right? Seeking guidance. But then once they start making that kind of money, that's when you start to see that sort of switch of the ego factor is what kills here.
Yeah.
And I know you had previous business experience too. So like I think a lot of people you're known for that. So
Hmm.
like I can imagine, right? Being if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? How young are you?
31.
31.
Yep.
Oh, you were in a whole different business. You built your name running a business. You already seen like, proper income. And then
Hmm.
you had to humble yourself, start a whole new business. Talk about that. Let's talk about the mental side of that. What kind of business you were in, how long you were doing it, how you got into it, and then what got you in this space as a whole.
Yeah, so just a quick background on me. So when I was 23, I moved up to Philadelphia because that's where I had got into law school. And I decided to drop out of law school because I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And, a 9 to 5 wasn't for me. So instead of signing up for a 9 to 5, I ended up signing up for 24/7 in the restaurant industry for the next 5 years, which was pretty brutal. I learned like two things. Number one, the business owned me, I didn't own it. And the economy was in control of my income, not me. So like when COVID hit, we went through like a phase where we went 9 months without income. So like being a father, being a husband, having all of those expenses, going 9 months without an income is pretty freaking rough.
Yeah.
So that really woke me up. And I remember I always share this story. One day I was at like Olive Garden with my kids. Like it was month 9, no income. We were looking for somewhere to eat that wasn't crazy. It wasn't going to be a crazy bill. And I put my head down. I'm like, God, if you're still listening to me, give me a sign. And I went home that day and I saw like another 3 posts about family first life from my upline, Mahmoud Nasser. And I was like, you know what? This is it. Like we're already like burning all of the oil. There's not much left. Like we don't know how much longer this is gonna last. I was like, what the heck do I have to lose at this point? Like being a husband and father is it's really hard to really try something new because I'm not the 23-year-old kid that dropped out of law school again.
Yeah.
Now like if I mess up this time, like we're gonna get messed up. So the way I looked at it, I was like, hey man, like what the heck do I have to lose? And I went all in, and that's it just shows. And there's a saying, it doesn't matter how hard you row your boat if you're not in the right boat.
Mm.
And that's what was happening, man. Like imagine that all I needed to do is bring in my work ethic into another industry, and boom, I'm a 7-figure earner after 1 year.
Hats off to you, man. Hats off.
Isn't that it's crazy, man, when you really think about it. And that's why that saying is so true. Like there's so many people that are just missing the right opportunity.
No,
And I was one of them. And I
no.
can speak from experience because of what I went through prior from getting into the business. Like I shared that picture on my Instagram, like right after convention. I was dialing like on a freezer ice box in the basement of my restaurant trying to figure this out. Like the year right before I took that MVP, it was literally that like 3 days after I took MVP, a year before that, which is like nuts. Just shows you how fast you can do stuff in this industry. It's really the best one out there.
No doubt, man. No doubt. I'm like, while you're explaining this, I'm like picturing this, like imagining. I don't have kids. I'm not married yet.
Yeah.
Right? I'm willing soon. Like 10 of them, 10 kids. Hopefully, we'll see. But it's definitely when you have a family, man. Like people are less like prone to wanting to take those kind of risks, right?
Yeah.
Um, and we have a lot of. I mean, most of our organization, it's people who are married, people who have kids, things like that. What kind of I can imagine, as we talk about this too, and I want to get into some more intricate questions here in a minute, but like what kind of conversations did you have to have with like your wife, if you don't mind me asking,
Yeah, for
like
sure, man.
like really understand like what was going on?
Hmm.
And like
So I'll be honest, man. Like when you are in a relationship, communication is key. Last year was very rough for my family. One of the things that I did sacrifice was my family last year. And I know that might sound weird or like to some of you all, but like I'll explain how my thought process was, right? So like obviously, what we had endured through COVID, like put us back in the trenches almost. So like we needed to make that sacrifice. And one of them, is I remember I talked to Stephen Yee about this, and he told me something that I could never forget early in the business. I told him, how do you balance your family time and the business? Because stuff is getting really hectic at that point. Like I had scaled to like 300K in like 3 or 4 months. And he told me something. He's like, remember this. He's like, how old's your oldest kid? I was like, he's 6 years old. He's like, do you remember anything from when you were 6 years old? I was like, not really. He's like, well, he won't either, but he will remember that his dad can't take him here, do this in 10 years. So he's
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, just sacrifice the 1 year and it's gonna be all right. Just make sure that communication is there. It's like, here's the game plan in the household. This is what's gonna be done this year. We're gonna really work hard this 1 year, and then I promise like our life will change. And that's what happened, you know. But you do need to sacrifice that time and like, hey, like this is a business. You've got to treat it like a business. Like I knew when I came in here, I didn't sign up for a 9 to 5. I didn't want to sign up for a 9 to 5 because with that income nowadays, like you're struggling in the country, So like I knew what it took. And like, hey, if you're telling me all I had to do is come in here and work from like 9 to 7 or 9 to 8, like, hey, like I used to leave the house when my kids had just woke up. I used to leave the house. I used to come home after my kids were asleep. That's work. This is not work. I've seen what real work is, standing behind ovens that are thousands of degrees in the summer, like that's work, working from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., running around to get this for your business. Like that's real hard work. So when I knew all I need to do is like really come in here and work, like my schedule is always the same. It's 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. And when I knew that that's all I need to do, and like, hey, I could still make it home in time for dinner, like I was like, sign me up.
Mm-hmm. You're still locked in. You still got a schedule, right? It's
Yeah.
just the workload isn't as tedious, right? And that's the big thing that we emphasize on, right? People come into this business and they think that yes, it's not a 9 to 5, but it's still a business today. A business is 24/7,
Yeah.
and having a spouse too. The understanding of that is a whole different conversation. But hats off to her, blessings be to her, man, because that's definitely not something that's easy. But yeah, no, schedule is number one in order to ensure success here for sure. You're saying you're still doing 9 to 7. That's crazy. I want everyone to listen to that. You're doing 9. HD does the same thing. We all do the same thing. We're on the call. Me and Samir were on the call at Zoom. No one else has to do this, but we were on the call like what 1 in the morning yesterday. But that's what people don't tell you, right? It's like
Uh-huh.
the work that's done in the dark will surely be brought to the light, sooner rather
Yeah.
than later, right? Especially in the beginning. But regardless, let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about like agents as a whole, right? So I know how many people would you say like within your guys' organization? Like so
I think we're at like 215 now.
is that with you and Mahmoud, or is that with you?
Just me. No, just me. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense as to why you guys can't off of those numbers for sure. What would you say is like you guys like do you have like a specific niche that you guys target? Is just social media? How are you guys like acquiring talent? You guys like have a
So I think the biggest thing, man, is everybody overcomplicates recruiting. Like they think it's like some magic tool that you need. It's really all it is just an Instagram following, investing into your social media. And how do you do that? You post consistently. Like you don't need to hire somebody. I didn't have somebody a year ago posting my content. Now there's a few of them, but all you and then if you want to take it to the next level, run paid ads. Like it's really simple. It's just everybody thinks like it's really like some overcomplicated process. But what I learned is like nobody wants to spend that money.
Yeah.
That's why they can't grow that fast. So like when you told me all I have to do is get a VA from overseas, pay her a couple $100 a week to send out 50 DMs a day from both of my profiles, and then spend another 500, $600 on paid ads, and my income will keep going up by 10, 15% every month. Like sign me up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But nobody wants to invest, and that's kind of like what I've learned. Everybody thinks like it's gonna come magically. You got to work for it. You gotta spend the money. Like there's no risk, there's no gain, there's no business that even our business with the leads, right? You can turn 8K in leads a month into 30, $40,000 back to your pocket. There's no business that you can do that in. All you need to do is spend money and treat it like a business so you can get those results.
It's easy too. There's no business you can do that's easy. A phone and a computer, 30 minutes. Like that's it's the convenience aspect is huge there. But no, man, I couldn't agree more. Lead flow is cash flow. That's for sure. On the hiring end and on the consulting end too.
Mm-hmm.
Say this, let me ask you this. What are the top 3 factors that you'd say like separate like high performing agents from those who are struggling to close the sales, right? Like you have 200 agents, right? At some
Mhm.
point, I don't know how many of them are new, but like, what would you say? Like, I'm sure you have like, your starting lineup, and you have your roster, you might be able to, structure it in that regard. But like, what
Yeah.
would you say? What's some of the key identifications that like separate the high performing agents from the ones who are like struggling?
So that's my favorite part about the business, right? Is if you look at our leaderboards, right? We all do the exact same thing. We all have the same script. We all dial the same lead type. We all have the same 24 hours a day. What is the difference between the guy that IP 70, 80K a month and the guy that IPs 20K a month at number 20 on our producer leaderboard? It's the consistency and the activity. That's all it is, And like if that's my favorite part about the business. Like I can pull up the leaderboard and I can tell you, hey, this guy spends that much on leads, this guy spends this much. And what is the number one indicator outside of work ethic that you see somebody's numbers higher than the other? Is like, hey, that guy might spend 300, $400 more a week on leads than that guy does. And
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean? He gets more leads, he gets more people to talk to, he presents to more, and he closes more.
Yeah.
So the business is really simple. It's more, 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 more. The
Mm-hmm.
more money you spend, the more people you talk to. The more people you close, the more money you make.
Yeah.
Like it's such a simple business, and so many people overcomplicate it from the agent perspective standpoint. And like, there's no magic lead out there. There's no nothing. It all comes down to spending money on leads and having a good work ethic.
Yeah.
There's nothing magic out there that's going to come and hit you and make you a 40, 50K producer. Just lead flow and a work ethic.
No doubt. No
Yeah.
doubt. What would you say is like, I think so. Someone in our organization says this all the time. It's like when you're buying a higher quality lead, you're just paying for a better chance of getting a better appointment set, right?
Yeah.
That's literally what it is. I mean, they're still going to get, even if you're paying for like an $80 lead, it's not going to be a lay down. You're still going to have to be able to handle, rebuttals. You're still going to be able to handle objections and be able to, sort of, cater to the client just the way you would on a
Yeah.
lead, $2, right? Um, but like, what would you say it's like? Are you guys? What kind of leads are you guys calling? Like, am I me asking? Like,
Gen Life.
Gen like Facebook?
Yeah. Meta, Google.
Same. I think you were telling me you guys when we were at convention. I'm saying you said you were spending like what, like 250,000 a month or something.
Yeah. And marketing up.
Same, man.
Yeah.
Insane. That's what it takes, though. That's what it takes.
You
I
got to
mean,
spend the money to make it, man.
is that what like your entire agency's calling most of the time?
Yeah. For the most part.
Okay, cool. You guys don't dabble in mortgage protection ever?
So the reason I like Gen Life is because you can find the need and sell them anything you want, whether it's final expense, leaving a legacy, aka an IUL, or protecting mortgage, aka mortgage protection. So you get the best of all three worlds.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true too, for sure. Um, you want to
But
do
in
some
regards
role?
to that high intent question, like I always tell agents the same thing. The lead is only as high intent as the agent. Like I've seen people buy $100 high intent leads and not be able to convert them because they don't know how to talk to them. And that's what it comes down to. Like you can spend 100, $150 on a high intent lead. Let's say it even has a freaking social in it. If you
Yeah,
don't know how to talk to them, like in a magic world, if you could do that, you're not going to know how to close them. It doesn't matter what information is there. If you don't know how to talk to them and you don't have the skill set to close that client, it's just a lead. It's not a close at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how high intent it is, you have to master the craft of selling, when it comes to the tonality, handling objections, being smooth with your presentation, like all of that matters. And the lead is always, I say we have a saying in our agency that the lead is only as cooked as the agent.
yeah, no doubt.
That's what it comes down to.
On a t-shirt.
Yeah.
That one on a t-shirt, that's for sure. Let's do some role play, man. I want to know, like, I want to see. I think everyone's kind of interested, like, how you guys like do the gen. Like, 'cause I think you're just now starting to get on like Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Um, but like, that's cool with you. You
Yeah,
ready?
for sure. Yeah.
All right, cool. You're obviously the agent. I'll be the prospect.
Yeah. Ring, ring.
Yeah. Hello, who's this?
Hey, this is Ronnie. I was giving you a call here from the benefits office. How are you doing today?
Good. The benefits office regarding.
Yeah, so I was giving you a call in regards to that request we had gotten from you for the new final expense and life insurance options. I do have your birthday here at 01/1993. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. Yep, yeah.
Perfect. So I'm just a medical underwriter that was assigned to your file. Now, just to confirm here, when you had sent this in, were you looking to focus on and then we just go into, were you looking to focus on a final expense,
Mhm.
leaving money behind, or covering a mortgage? just finding out the need right out of the gate, making sure that we're on the same page with them,
Okay, cool. And then it's what? So like what they say, like, oh, I never. Like, what do you say when someone says like, oh, yeah, man. Like, let me ask you this: how's the show ratios with those? Let me, like, well, you just
So all leads, man, you have like a 75% no-show ratio, no
yeah,
matter what.
yeah, yeah.
I
That's
don't think there's a solution around it, like it's just people no-show.
yeah. That's the. I heard like with Facebook though, it's like much higher though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I'm sure like there's different tricks how we use, like disposition them as misscheduled, try to spin back on them, whatever the case is. But after that, you just want to make sure that you're on the same page. So the script should always be structured that it eliminates objections out of the way. So we'll tell them like, hey, next thing we'll do is spend about a minute or so on your health to make sure that you're not in hospice or bed rest or anything crazy. And what we'll do from there is see which one of the 26 A-rated cares would most likely to give you that approval today. That's telling them that we're going to do the shopping for them. And then after that, we'll spend about a minute or so on yourself and financial situation to make sure that everything is affordable and within budget for you. That's telling them that it's not free or anything crazy that they could think. So like all of that stuff matters. And so many people, they're so busy trying to skip parts of the script, trying to get through the presentation faster. And the reason that they're getting those objections is because they're skipping everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So like we have a training on Monday that's literally the title of it is stick to the script.
Mm-hmm.
And all we do is read the script out loud and talk to them why what's there is in there for a reason.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. You guys have like your own script, or like you guys use like
It's just like it's like a general family first life script, just remixed kind of like to our niche.
fine, man. Yeah, we
Yeah.
probably have some more people join that if that's cool with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. So let me ask you this then. So you guys have these are all like manual? Or you guys like have like a CRM, or you guys like so you talk about
So
dispositions, like how you guys like this you guys
so we
have
use Ringy currently. We're literally in the process of releasing our own white labeled CRM in this second
okay.
quarter.
Okay. It's gonna be open to like the general public or just like within your guys' organization?
So it's like tailored for like our agency,
Okay.
just because of like like logo and branding and all that stuff. But I know Integrity has one they're about to release here soon too. Give you guys
Yeah,
a sneak
yeah.
peek on
We'll see how that goes, right? God bless. Regardless, though.
that.
So, like, what would you say? So, a new agent, right? First 30 days, what's the protocol to get them to close, like, as soon as possible? Like, what are you guys like doing? What kind of conversations are you having to get that agent primed to be able to close in their first like 30, 60, 90? I don't know how long.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is people rush into the training
Mhm.
on the first day. Like we do a really good job at setting. If you guys heard my speech on convention, it was recruiting like an NFL scout and giving those expectations. Most people miss all of that important stuff before the training to assure that you're working with the right people. And it's just simple conversations like, hey, this is the expectation. It's not a 9 to 5. It's not a part-time job. These are the hours that we work. You're going to be either on in Zoom. And if you are on Zoom, you need to be unmuted with your camera on because we can't hear you, can't see you, can't help you. In the office, you need to be on time. And hey, like if those people that are coming into the office late their first week, imagine after what they're going to do in their first month. So all of that little stuff matters before you even get into the training. And then after that, just training agents and keeping it simple. So like the biggest thing I would say I see most people make the mistake in the business is they overcomplicate everything. This is really a simple business.
Yeah.
So the first week, it's just like we set like a objective and we set a goal for how many they're going to close. So like if I was training you, I would tell you, hey, this first week we're going to focus on tonality. We're going to try to close 1 to 3 policies this week. Next week we're going to focus on mastering the first 90 seconds. That week we're going to try to close anywhere from 2 to 4 policies and so on. It's like a 6-week training schedule that we follow. But the biggest thing I would say to getting that agent to close their first policy, just keeping the business simple and not overloading their brain on the first day.
Okay. You guys like most of the time you guys like sit next to them and like walk them through like
Yeah.
most of them? Okay.
Yeah.
Sit on the mute thing. Okay. Cool, man. What would you say is the average timeline for an agent to close like within your guys' organization?
So honestly, man, we have some like we just made a rookie bracket for our March Madness tournament. We have some animals in there, man. Like some of these guys, like I saw this guy in the Slack weekly sales close like 12K and he started on Wednesday.
That's crazy.
It just comes back, man. Like there's people that don't close one the first 2 weeks, and then there's people that can close 15, 20K their second week. It just comes back to their activity, like there's nothing special or no superpower the other one has over the other, but really this business comes back to like being a two-way street, like I can't want something more than somebody else wants it for themselves, so like that's the reason some people can come in and get those results right away and put up, like that kid did 12K in his first week. It's because he's working hard. He's working from 9 to 9. If you look at it, that's the only thing special that he's doing. He's outworking everybody. And if you think about it, all comes down to his activity. Yeah, he might not know the script. Yeah, he might suck on the phone, but if he calls more people than you do, he's going to talk to more people than you will.
No doubt. That's the fact.
Yeah.
It's inputs.
Yeah.
Inputs are equal returns, that's for sure. Now, and then you talked about structuring, your guys' call. You're doing that training on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you kind of use there's a similar framework that we use too. It's called like shaving down the lead, right? So we ask certain qualifying questions to get them to like get all the rebuttals out of the way in the beginning of the conversation. So that way, by the end of the conversation, the only objection that we should ever get is like, I can't afford it, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, something that, we can get around, but typically we choose not to, just to do what's in the client's best interest.
Yeah.
Right. But if you messed up, we always tell people like, I need to think about, if you get the I need to think about it objection, it's because you brutally messed up in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. So what are your thoughts on that? How are you guys like structuring your sales calls to ensure like high closing ratios? Like any specific, I know obviously using a script, but like any other like frameworks that you guys are using to be like have like agents come in and like have a high chance of being able to close?
So I think the biggest thing is like knowing how to handle objections and eliminating them throughout your script. It's like we use this objection handling method. It's called the AAA method. So when I was a new agent, I wrote down something on the bottom right side of my computer. It said agree, ask, attack. Later on, I came up with a name for that method. It's called the AAA method. So just keeping it simple and like providing stuff like that for the agent allows them, to get less of that stuff, is just really knowing how to handle the root of any problem in the presentation, which is an objection. So anytime we respond to an objection, it's always one or the other way. It's I perfect or I completely understand, and then we ask a question, and then we go back into the script. So like just keeping stuff simple like that, and training really hard on that, like allows, I would say, just about anybody to be able to move at a good rate.
No doubt, man. You guys are all in office mostly. You're outside your office right now too.
So mostly, I would say like 80% of the team is in office between one of the 4 or 5 offices, and then the other 20% is like on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
How you guys like maintaining that? Because I know that's like everyone's biggest struggle, right? Like with us, like we have no choice, right? Because like we've built our organization on our virtual infrastructure, but the biggest feedback we get, like we get a lot of praise for it too, but like the biggest feedback we get is like, how do you guys do it? I mean, do you guys feel like your guys' Zoom culture is like, in a position where it's the infrastructure is there?
Yeah, it's so I think the rate that we're at now, like we're approaching 2 million a month, like we're pretty self-sustainable, like there's plenty of leaders in the team. You'll log into Zoom, you'll see 22-year-old sniper Tanner Mendelson, you'll see all these other guys, you'll see Coach Al, like all these guys lead at a high example. So we're kind of like spread out everywhere, like these guys are covering the Zoom, we're covering the offices, so like it works.
Divide and conquer. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you have like some pretty good synergy amongst your leadership team. That's super important, man. I can't emphasize on that enough, right? Just making sure that everyone's like singing the same tune, right? So that way, you have certain standards for your agents, they have to have the same exact standards, right?
It's like one big echo. That's the best piece of advice that I got when I joined the business. They said your agency should be one big echo. Anywhere you go, you get the same answer.
Fine.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So I know you guys are buying a lot of leads, right? But you guys like emphasize a lot on like follow-ups, like to re-engage the lead if they initially say no or hesitate to make a decision. Or you guys like constantly just buying leads regardless of like.
So our follow-up process, and then the number one thing before even the follow-up is having enough people to where you're not depending on the follow-up, So our average agent spending anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 a week on leads.
Jeez.
And it's simple, like if you aren't closing enough people, it's because you don't have enough people to talk to. Like if your numbers are low, it's because you're not buying enough leads, they're not working enough. It's a simple business, And then in regards to like the follow up, we just have a trick where we call them like the first week, like we call them three different parts of the day trying to get a hold of them. If not, we'll just like put them on the back burner and follow up periodically with them, you know?
For sure. Yeah,
But
you
it's
guys,
like super time sensitive, the follow up in the beginning, you know?
no doubt, no
Yeah.
doubt. They typically say like 8 touch points, man. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about that because you're telling me like with no CRM, that's gonna be. I'm trying to think about that. Like, you guys have like, everything in paper. Like, how do you guys do like in a Google Sheet
For follow up,
for like leads? Yeah, in general.
yeah. So for the follow up, it goes out to the CRM, but we make a
Oh,
point of we try to contact them too because they're more likely to pick up the phone than answer a message, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like as I say, the fortune is in the follow up, man.
Yeah.
Super point. Um, so like, I know you guys are only focusing on Facebook though most of the time.
Hmm.
Um, but like, what criteria would you say like agents should use when selecting leads to ensure that they're investing in the highest converting opportunities?
Yeah.
Like,
So I mean, it's just like we have like people that we've worked with that we know we could trust whatever they deliver. Like before, we had like a list of guys that were passed down to us from other people that work with them. So I think the biggest thing when working with a lead vendor is maybe working with somebody that has like experience with them, and not just throwing 1,500 bucks at so and so leads because you wanted to try them. And it goes back to that saying, you can get a lot further ahead by making fewer mistakes, and you just ask for feedback or from advice from other people, and you can kind of know what's working. Like a bunch of the guys and all stars in general, they like using CRM Center. Like that's a trusted one that you can use that I know people are converting off of,
no doubt.
Yeah.
The truth, man. And these Facebook leads are still jumping though. We interviewed a guy last week, young,
Uh,
21 years old, 30 million in 17 and 19 months of being in the business. And he's spending just about the same amount as he like 250K a month for his organization. So like I know there's definitely some sort of thing. Are you the one running your own ads for them? Or
we have somebody that manages it.
got you.
Yeah.
So I sell those or no?
So we don't, just because of how hectic it is already managing it. And I know that door would open, it would just be crazy, Try not to like steer away from the main focus,
Oh
which
yeah.
is scaling the team,
Hey man, if you ever change your mind, you know who to call, you know.
for sure.
But let me ask you this. So what like how can an agent like is there any like specific lead vendors? Like obviously you guys are using the Facebook. Uh
Hmm.
what's like so you if you guys are only working Facebook, you guys like have a process? Because I'm sure this does Facebook work for everybody most of the time, or is like there's any
I,
other like
I
FBA?
think like we've been running a lot of Google ads recently, have worked out, just because of how flooded Meta's getting. But I mean, I don't, there's not a bad one, like it depends on who you're targeting. If you're targeting people for IUL, like Instagram is going to be a good one. People that are on Meta are mostly over 60 plus, those are not your target clients. Or mortgage protection, it's good through Google and Instagram. It's just like you have to know who your audience is.
No doubt. No
That's
doubt.
really what it comes down to, knowing that audience.
No doubt. And you guys like you guys most of the time just teach your agents just Gen Life. You don't teach them anything else. Like, you don't teach
So
them.
Gen Life is like a category of everything, and the
Yeah.
reason I like is because it gives you a wide variety of people to speak to, and then from there you just find the need.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha for sure. Okay, and then let me ask you this. So let's talk about the mental side. So obviously, when you came into this business, you were an agent, or did you just start like building the agency right away? Like, obviously,
No, I was an agent
I know,
first. Yeah.
you still write business?
No, now I can, man. My phone goes off every freaking 3 seconds.
Sure. No,
Yeah.
I'll
I
trick.
tr I tried to. I turned my leads back on, but it didn't work out because I can't get on a call if someone's walking into my office every 2 seconds or I'm getting a call.
That's a good problem to have, man. You got other
Yeah.
leads, man. Other way.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
what would you say? So you were an agent, obviously you had to lead by example. You obviously had to teach people what you know, right? You had to perfect your craft because obviously you're coming from a whole different industry. Not even relative. I mean, you ran a business, but you're in this is like real sales, right?
Yeah.
So adjusting that learning curve, what would you say? Like, how can an agent develop the right mindset to push those tough weeks and maintain consistency in their closing ratios? And like, what did you do specifically before you obviously started getting some traction?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So If you've ever struggled after having a rough week, drop a one in the chat for me. I know we all have. I'm gonna drop a one in there too. I'll tell you guys a story about one bad week I had. So like this business, you have to have a bulletproof mindset. And I remember as a new agent one time, I had a rough two days and it turned into 10 days. But now that I look back at it, I'm like, how the heck can you have 10 days getting shut out on the phone when you're talking to different leads every day? You can't get the same result. But if you have the same mindset, you will get the same result. So that's huge in this business is knowing how to develop that bulletproof mindset. And I think it just comes over time after like that 90-day mark of consistency. You will get that bulletproof mindset. And the way that I look at it now, or when I'm talking to new agents that are struggling, is like, hey, how many days are there in a week? There's 7 days. How many weeks are in a month? There's 4 weeks. How many months are in a year? There's 12 months. So like there's no way that you can continue having a bad stretch, because every day is a new day. You're talking to new leads. You're going to get a different result. You can't get the same result unless you have the same mindset. So that's really what it comes down to. Just like, hey, that morning, like when I hit the sauna in the morning at the gym, like I release all the, bad energy out of my body. I'm ready to start the day new.
Yeah.
And that's important for anything that's in business in general. You will have bad stretches, you will have bad days. Like it's a part of the business. Like even I was telling my wife this like last week, I had got into like a weird mental funk, like my brain was really busy. I wasn't able to get stuff done. Like it was weird, but like you're gonna get them no matter what. But you just have to understand, like it's a part of life, it's a part of business. If this was easy, then everybody would be doing it.
Swear, that's the truth. It's the bare truth, man.
That's what it comes down to.
It's a business. This is a game of lasting. I always tell people like you got to give this business at least a full year, like a real year, right? A year of like real. You're on the phones we're doing at least 150 to 300 outreaches a day for day in, day out, morning to evening, and then you might close here and there, and then you also hit something in between, but you're not really gonna reap the full reward of the business. The one who lasts the longest is the one who's gonna win in the end, right?
Yeah.
Business is proven time and time again, right? It's not for everybody, but well, actually, let me ask you this: what's your take on that? You think this business is for everybody?
No.
Yeah.
I only say it only works if you do. This is not like the get rich quick scheme that you're going to become a millionaire and after 2 years. Like if you don't put it in the work, you're not going to get the results.
No doubt, no doubt. Talk about the ugly side, man. Talk about the ugly side. Like let's talk about like you 0 dark 30. Let's talk about the darkness, man. Like bring me to those days with you real quick.
So I think like I had like 2 breaking points before I scaled to a million, and then they were right around like 200 and then $300,000 a month. And the reason those levels are so hard to crack is because you have all of the weight on your shoulders. You don't have any leaders that have been developed in your team yet, and stuff will get hard. But if I look at it back then, like I remember one day I was having a really bad day. Like I hired like 16 people direct that month, and like my personal production got hit, and it felt weird, and I was like bouncing around the office, helping 5, 6, 8 agents write policies at the same time. And like that's stressful, but that's a part of the business, like you will not develop your running mates, to later on in the business, finding out who's going to be the right ones that are going to build this thing with you. All of that stuff matters, as you're building an organization. And those for me were like the dark days because like all of the weight was on my shoulder. But if you look at it, like I remember what my mentor told me, is like it's only temporarily till you get past that. You will find those guys as you continue to grow, but getting there is the hard part.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That's
so at the beginning you might have to do it alone, but it gets better and it's only temporary. Like it doesn't last.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, that's a unique thing about this. I mean, it's pretty much like any business, right? I mean, you see so many, and maybe you can attest to this too because you owned a restaurant. So you obviously were the owner, but this is the biggest mistake that we see right in America right now, even in general, right? People, I mean, and we're talking about leadership here, guys. So if you're a leader here, you're trying to get leadership, we're going to sort of shift the dynamic of this conversation. But biggest mistake is that most of these mom and pop shops in the US or even in general, they make the common mistake of opening up whatever, let's say a restaurant, and the first person they hire is an employee, right? And what does that do? well, obviously they're not setting themselves up for failure because they're gonna have to manage that employee for the entire time while that business is running, right? That employee has no sort of the employee loves what they do. They're getting paid, they're taking their check, and they're doing what they do, but they have no ambition to want to be able to lead. So what ends up happening is that the owner of the business, correct me if I'm wrong, ends up being the manager of the business, and the business, like you said, starts to own them.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with this business too. Is like when you build so like incorrectly, how you build is how you do everything, right? When we talk about the core four, right? Like we run our sort of this thing like a Fortune 500, right? Like we have our CEO, CTO, CMO, CFO, right? And then we have an aligning, and then like I said, that way if we're having certain conversations, like you said, an echo, right? So all their downlines are all singing the same tune. So super important point, man. I mean, 16 people direct is crazy, but I mean, luckily we obviously made it around.
Yeah.
Came up around it. Let me ask you this. So talking about leadership, are you guys doing like any sort of like interview process to assess like what kind of key like sort of are you looking for characteristics? Are you looking for sort of what exactly are you looking for in leaders within your organization?
Yeah, so if you guys want to hear a huge tip to avoid as you're building a team, drop an emoji in this chat because I made a big mistake here early on. I think the biggest mistake that I always talk about the stuff not to do, right? Before doing the stuff that you should do. Because as a new agent, I was always looking at the guys that were not seeing the results and what are they doing so I don't do it. And I made this mistake early on is like just because somebody's producing at a high level doesn't mean that they're a leader. Like I hate to break it to you guys. Like there's people at the top of the leaderboards. I see putting up 50, 60K a month. Those are great producers, but it doesn't mean that they're a great leader. And a mistake I made early on was giving out agents to those high producers that weren't leaders and them getting run off of the team and going elsewhere because they weren't getting the attention that they deserved. So the biggest thing that I see now when wanting to duplicate a leader is I look at one thing and it's the behavior. So what is the behavior of that guy that's putting up 50, 60K a month? Is he showing up to the office every day? Is he open-minded? Is he helping agents that are next to him? Is he helping us getting on the training calls and training up agents? Like simple stuff. Do I see him reposting about the business? Like that's all of those cues are somebody that's looking to get into like leadership or start building out an agency. And those are the people that you need to focus on when it comes to building your team. Just because they can IP 50, 60K a month doesn't mean that they're a leader if the behavior is not there of a leader. And when it comes to duplicating people, what needs to be duplicatable? It's the behavior.
No doubt.
Like the guy that shows up and works from 9 to 3 p.m., 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and IPs 50, 60K a month, like I would not duplicate him. I would not even mention him recruiting people because you can't duplicate that behavior.
No, not at all. Not
and that's what it comes down to. Like if the behavior is not duplicatable, then you can't tap into their mark or whatever it is.
No doubt. That's true. I mean, 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. too, as we already know, you said your phone's getting blown up all day. I mean, we get leadership is something we always tell our guys like, it's a 7-day a week thing. It's a 7-day a week gig, right? Like we always talk about this too. There's no such thing as free overrides here. We don't play that. Right?
Gotta earn it.
Everyone is accounted for. Everyone is taken care of. There has to be, if you're someone's taking a bet on you, right? Like if you're my leader, I'm taking a bet on you that you're gonna make sure that I'm getting paid, and you're taking a bet on me that I'm just gonna have to show up and do the work, right? But for most people, that's like the toughest thing to do, especially for top producers. There's this thing, right? Top producers are always gonna be the biggest headaches.
Yeah.
Right? But there's nothing wrong with producing. Nothing wrong with producing whatsoever. It's just, once you make your money, it's very hard to be able to like, humble yourself and be able to help other people out, man. Leadership is definitely something that's taken very seriously. Should be, for sure.
Yeah.
So as you 200 people, how many would you say like of them like are established leaders within your organization?
I think there's like 15.
Okay.
There's like 10 that really, really, really matter. And then there's about 15 and 20 as a whole, maybe up to 25. But like we even take it to the next level, man. Like we don't give out the recruiting link unless we trust you to lead people or want to duplicate, So like we really cherish and value the bringing in the right people and working with the right people, and that all goes back to duplicating the right people.
Mm-hmm. Because if that goes wrong, that also comes back to you.
Exactly, because the way I look at it is if the agent's not making money, then we're hurting them instead of helping them, and I don't want to be in that position. But the way that happens is by bringing in the right people, bringing in the wrong people to begin with.
No.
Yeah,
Important reputation.
exactly.
Reputation, that's the biggest thing, in this industry specifically, right? Like it's an amazing industry, but sometimes the industry, gets an interesting sort of rep, right?
Hmm.
It's not because of the industry, it's because of the people
The
within the industry,
people. Yeah,
right? And there's no such thing as good and bad, right?
yeah,
There's good people and there's bad people, but even within, let's talk about the insurance industry as a whole. Right? You have LOA. There's businesses, billion-dollar companies that are building their book of business off of calling their friends and family. There's
yeah,
businesses that are talking about free leads, but and it's working out, right?
yeah.
And then there's obviously people who are taking a smaller commission, they're taking a little bit of a salary. That's working out too. But that's the biggest thing, man, is obviously having that support, your reputation is there, but there's good people and there's bad people, right? And aligning, right? You talking about vehicle. I say that saying one more time. You said you're rowing the boat. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
it doesn't matter how hard you row if you're not in the right boat. That's what it comes down to when it comes to work ethic and being in the wrong vehicle.
That's the truth. When we first came here, that's exactly what he was talking to us about. He's like, the vehicle. The vehicle is
Yeah.
right. But no, man, this is great. So, what's one piece of advice you would give to agents looking to scale from part-time success to becoming a top producer in the industry?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing is I even had to do this myself because I came in part-time originally because I was in the restaurant industry, is making a solid schedule your first month, in up until your second month into the business, and give yourself enough time to where you're going to stick to that schedule. And the way I always break it down for new agents is hey, if you work Monday through Thursday from 9 to 4, take that Monday off because you're not a robot. Nobody works all day every day, and commit to working those last 6 days of the week, whether it's from 5 to 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday, you do all day for your first month so you can see those results. But unless you can commit to that schedule and stay consistent to it, it's really hard to get those results because you haven't put in enough effort or work to see that, hey, this can replace your income. And it's most of the time, when people are coming in part-time, most of those people are making anywhere from 4 to maybe 7 grand a month max. It's really easy to replace that income in 1 month with the right schedule and the right work ethic.
No doubt, no doubt. Timing is the inputs, right? You have to put the hours, you pay off the ignorance debt as fast as possible,
Yeah.
right? Who talks about ignorance debts? Something just came to my mind. You actually just spoke to Hormozy, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You just went to Hormozy. I need to know. I don't know if we have time for that. I need to know let's do this. I don't know if you guys know who Alex Hormozy is. Do your research. What was the number one thing you took away from that conversation with him?
Yeah, so that was actually a really good trip for me, man, because I went there and I learned a lot of stuff in middle of December as I was getting ready for this year. We planned it out right before the new year so we can, take away a lot of key things. And the biggest thing that I learned, man, is a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're looking to move as fast as possible, but we're not looking at those constraints that could hold them back a little bit, as they're continuing to scale. So he has a saying, it's called nail it and scale it. So anytime he's getting ready to move fast, he makes sure that there's no constraints in his business and he can fire the rocket ship up without any issues of it coming back down.
Mm.
So this quarter, my plan of action, I have a military mindset. I always label every quarter like a mission. This one was the calm before the storm. And the reason that is because I was looking to solve all 4 or 5 constraints that we had within an agency that may hold us back from getting to $8 or $10 million a month.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. So did you guys have the opportunity to consult with him, let him know about some of the certain issues
Yeah.
you're struggling with? And he
So
gave
we
you
spent the whole day basically just going through the business with them. And it was pretty helpful, man, because the people that are there, his team is all high level entrepreneurs that have all exited multiple 7-figure businesses.
right. No doubt, man. That's huge. And you guys are
Yeah.
doing huge stuff on the marketing end, man. I see even while he was talking to Ty Lopez, it's just crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
insane. And that's next level stuff, man. There's no doubt that you guys have, been able to see the level of success that you guys have been able to see in the time that you've been able to see it. There's no question about it, right? Because you guys are just doing what people are doing in half the time because you're doing double the work, right?
Yeah, and continuing to be coachable, man. That's really what it comes down to. Like, I've trained with so many people in the last 2 years, from Daniel G to Hermosi to Wes Watson to Andy Elliott, Sean Mike. Like, you got to continue to be coachable. From everybody, you can take something away, but it's always knowing that there's room for improvement and not thinking that you're just the best that's out there.
That's the truth, man. The best leaders are the best students. You know that.
Yeah, you got to always be a student of the game.
Yes, sir. We're going to open it up for questions here in a minute, but with no further ado, Ronnie, I do appreciate you for joining us today. Welcome back to another amazing episode. The game plan call. This video is going to go up live here in the next couple of weeks. But like, comment, subscribe, show us some love, repost. We'll send it over to you as well, Ronnie. But with no further ado, I appreciate you, man.
For sure. Appreciate you having me on, man.